I love the study from Harvard. It's the longest running study ever. For 75 years, they followed people to find out what created the most happiness in life, the best quality of life. And they found that it was the marriage relationship. When you invest in your marriage, you invest in happiness over every aspect of your life. Everything gets better, sweeter, more alive, more abundant. And I think investing in your marriage is literally the best investment you can ever make.
Welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm your host, Dan Purcell, a Christian marriage and intimacy expert and coach. I'm on a mission to help couples have the best sex and most emotionally intimate marriages possible. Our episodes cover topics you've always wondered about and are packed with practical advice designed to help you take your marriage to the next level. I say this with humility. I feel called to this important work that I do in Get Your Marriage On. It is extremely important and meaningful work to me. The changes I've experienced in my own marriage were too good to keep to myself, and I wanted to share it with others. In some ways, I feel like I'm a missionary again, sharing the good news of the gospel to others. In fact, I strongly believe that there are many parallels between sexual development and spiritual development, and I'm not alone in sharing that opinion. We recently completed our couples retreat 2 weeks ago. We limit our retreat to just 20 couples to keep it intimate and personal, and I want to tell you about one particular couple that attended our most recent retreat. They've been married 20 years and had some apprehension attending the retreat, and understandably so, right? Addressing a very personal and often conflict-inducing aspect of your relationship can be nerve-wracking. Yet, they were courageous and participated with us that weekend. This is an email I got from the wife just last week, just a few days after they returned home from the retreat. This is what she said. The marriage and intimacy retreat was a life-changing experience for us. After 20 years of marriage, we wanted to take our marriage from good to great. During the weekend, we gained so many incredible insights on how we were trying to constantly fix each other rather than ourselves, making assumptions and putting expectations on each other that were false due to a lack of honest communication that had been shaped over the past 2 decades of our routines. We gained so many new tools for improving communication and connection, but also changing our own attitudes about ourselves and our intimate life. Most important were the friendships and community we gained from this bonding and growing time together. To know that every couple in the room was there to learn and grow was such a comfort, and we learned so much from each other as well as the speakers. To have a relaxing and pampered weekend to focus on our most important relationships created an environment of uninterrupted growth, reflection, and exploration that can be hard to come by. The staff is vulnerable, safe, and excited to help each and every couple. We walked out of the retreat with a literal book of tools and lots of other goodies to implement at home and friendships that will last a lifetime. What an incredible kickstart to the next phase of our marriage, and we can't wait to get started. I love that, and I love getting that email. Building an intimate marriage is not easy, let's be honest, but it is made easier with the help of expert guides that know the terrain. A retreat or a really good online program may not fix everything in your relationship in one weekend, but our program will equip you with all the tools and the structure you need to help you change your relationship patterns to those that are more conducive to an intimate relationship. Today, we launch our new program called the Get Your Marriage On program. This is our new signature program. This program combines our in-depth relationship training, such as what you'd get live at our retreats, in an online format. In addition, we offer weekly coaching opportunities to all of our members because we believe action is so important. This program is perfect for couples that are in an otherwise good marriage, but want to build something even better when it comes to sex and intimacy. You can learn more about this incredible life-changing program by visiting Get Your Marriage On and click on Work With Me. Registration is now open for our next retreat. The dates are October 10 through 13. Again, it's limited to just 20 couples, and every retreat we put on has sold out in the past, so reserve your spot today. Those details are also on the Get Your Marriage On website, and click Couples Retreat. Today, I've invited Amy, Greg, and Tammy, who are my staff members, my colleagues in my programs, and also at my retreats. I've invited them on the podcast to talk about the most recent retreat as well as our new program. I want you to listen to the passion and empathy behind their voices. These are people that deeply care about you, your happiness in your marriage, and providing every tool possible to help you get your marriage on. Hey, I am so excited to have the whole team here. I'm super passionate about helping couples improve intimacy in their marriage, and it's a pleasure to have Greg, Amy, and Tammy here with me today. How are you doing?
Excited to be
Doing great.
here.
Great. For those of you listening that may not know who Greg and Amy and Tammy are, I'd love if you'll just briefly introduce yourselves.
Hello there. I am Amy Langford. I am a marriage and intimacy coach. I've been doing this for 5 years now. I love it. I'm passionate about it, mostly because it impacted my marriage first and changed the entire course of my marriage. And that's what I want to help others do.
Yeah, I'm Greg Langford. I'm the other half of Amy. And I was so excited to watch Amy go through this process and become a coach and get into this specific area of relationships, marriage relationships, intimacy. And it's changed my life so much that I decided to do it myself. So I've been coaching couples too, and we really enjoy the ability to be able to see both sides of the coin, right? We come from things at different angles as a couple, and Amy and I can actually feed off each other in that way, and we're excited to be able to share this experience together.
Hey, my name is Tammy Camp, and I am a marriage and intimacy coach as well. This is my dream job. I finally found what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I have learned this through experience of just completely diving into this work, loving it. I love helping others. So I do private coaching, and I love it. It just is such rewarding work to be able to work on my own relationship with my husband, but also help others see where they may be stuck. And I just am passionate about it and excited to continue to work on this.
Now, the four of us just banded together and we just finished our spring marriage retreat, which was absolutely amazing. I think it was a grand, amazing success in every category. And I think what makes us special and different from every other possible marriage retreat you can go out there is, first of all, you're not just sitting in a stuffy room in like a conference room of a hotel listening to an expert drone on for days. You've got us. You have very different perspectives. And I want you each to share your story briefly here in just a moment. But second of all, we incorporate coaching into our marriage retreat because coaching gives you an opportunity to implement and take action on the principles that we're teaching to your specific circumstances in your relationship. And I think it's super powerful. The reason why I love coaching is it's made a huge impact on me and my own marriage. But you already know my story. I want to hear Amy and Greg, your story, and then Tammy, your story about your marriage, the big changes that you've had, shifts from coaching yourselves.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. That's okay. Greg and I were always just amazing friends and partners, and we really were thriving in a lot of areas of our marriage, except for the intimacy area. And we felt like we just kept hitting the same brick wall. He was struggling with porn. I was struggling with not knowing my own sexuality. He was higher desire. I was lower desire. I was feeling betrayal. He was feeling confused. I had a lot of anxiety that I was constantly asking him to solve. I didn't know what to do with, and I would sometimes use control or other ways to navigate that anxiety. And so coaching, first of all, helped me learn how to work through the anxiety myself, helped me overcome the feelings of betrayal, helped me form completely new understandings of his sexuality, my sexuality, how to create more honesty in our relationship, and how to learn what connection really was. We were kind of in like a transactional state. And so coaching helped open that up into more partnership and really helped us to figure out how to really and truly connect with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating as when you're struggling and having this. And I'll never forget the moment that the porn addiction or porn usage was revealed to Amy. I actually didn't reveal it. She actually found it out, and it was very uncomfortable. But we were also told that we were broke and there was no way to fix us, right? That we had no hope, that I would always have to go to porn and that Amy would always have to be there to watch me, and that was her job. And we spent a lot of years of frustration around that, right? And when we found coaching in this area, it opened our eyes to what sexuality really was and what is intimacy really was as a partnership, right? And for one, I still pinch myself when I sit in these retreats and listen to Amy coach and talk, that she's actually even talking about her sexuality. It was a very private thing that she would never talk about, let alone being the expert in the room. And so it's a dramatic change from where we were in our marriage. And really, it was the concepts that we teach around differentiation and how to be intimate with one another at these retreats and in coaching that allowed us to get there. And it's one thing of getting this information, and we spent a lot of time having this information come to us, not knowing how to implement. I remember we were listening to a certain podcast in the past, and I would listen to it and she would listen to it, and we'd use it as a weapon afterwards, right? And so we're like, see, they said this, and you need to go fix you, and it said this, and I'm right. And that really did not help us because we were getting the information, but we weren't able to realize how do we implement it into our lives. And that's what we really do here at these retreats. And what we do when we coach is that we take that information and we don't only just share that with you, but we give you real life experiences of how to implement into your marriage. And then we sit down with you one-on-one as coaches and we listen to specifically how you're struggling in those areas, and we give you more information. So, I wish we had a retreat 15 years ago. Absolutely. It could have caused us a lot less pain and suffering. We have the tools that can help improve intimacy in your marriage. We were a case of having the major struggles that every couple goes through. We had them, and I can't tell you how amazing it's been to overcome those struggles. And we're so excited to help share it with as many people as we can.
I love that, Amy and Greg. And also, you don't have to go to a retreat for this. This is what our Get Your Marriage On program that we're launching is all about. You can get the individual coaching that you need, plus the instruction virtually from the comfort of your home, too. Amy, looks like you're about to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that's what makes it so powerful is all of us have access to a lot of these concepts and teachings, but I get all the different couples in our group sessions or in individual sessions or in private sessions. And what does this mean for me with where I'm at right now? Because all of us are on a journey, and at different points in that journey, it means slightly different things. And so many people wonder, okay, I get that. I'm supposed to, move towards more honesty or more differentiation or more intimacy. But what does that mean for me? Like, what's the next step? How do I move to that one to get to the next one? So the true gift is to be able to break it down and understand so it's digestible and doable for each person, no matter where they're at.
Mm-hmm. And Tammy, let's hear your story on how all of that impacted you too.
Okay. So Jake and I have been on a pretty big deep dive in our relationship over the last couple of years. I would say that we got asked the question that asked us about our sex life, and we could not rate it very high. And so it really made us start to move towards a place where we wanted to improve this. We were both very quick to see that we had a lot of holes in what we believed and what we understood. And so I actually am a survivor of one of these retreats, and it is amazing, awesome. So I went from surviving a retreat to thriving and just completely loving and understanding the purpose of these retreats and the work that we do. In our relationship, I was a good girl, and good girl in the sense that sex was not a great thing. It was bad. It was like just for Jake. It was just for him to find pleasure, but not for me. I had that responsibility to make and carry babies. And then after that, I found no goodness in it. And what a bad way of thinking. It just was a little bit backward. So now I have such goals in my life to try to help others get unstuck from what they are believing in their relationship. And to me, we were scared to death to come to this retreat in ways that we're just like, what if people know that we're going to a marriage retreat? What will they think? In ways that, we were still nervous when we got there. That's okay. That's part of the learning process. I love the anxiety that I have learned how to just thrive in because it is helping me improve. It is helping me in ways that, for years I saw anxiety as a bad thing. And now I see it as a way to improve myself and step forward in a way that I am becoming such a different person in who I am in my relationship and also being able to help others. And so our story is one fast paced, but we're just absolutely thriving, like I said before, in our relationship and continuing to learn, to grow, to acknowledge, and then step forward. And to me, that is what this program is all about. The next level program and also the retreats. They're awesome. They're transformative and they are so worth the time, the effort, and the anxiety that may come when thinking about it.
I love
Now
that.
I gotta paint a picture for our listeners here, and then because I don't think that was great, Tammy, but I don't think people really understand. So we had Tammy in a tree a year ago, and she was quiet, barely spoke a word. You could tell there was death and fear on her face when she went through this. I witnessed just a couple weeks ago Tammy demoing a lap dance to her husband in front of the whole group. This is the kind of change that has happened to her. And even on our drive back to the airport with Tammy and her husband, Jake, she was discussing some of the things that she had been coaching on. And I said, Jake, can you believe that? And for those that are only listening, he gave my head explodes signal, like it makes his head explode. So similar to me as a husband, Jake watching Tammy, I think, has just been unbelievable how quickly she's gone from, I can't talk about this, it embarrasses me, I don't want anyone to know, to this is what's most important in my life. And let me show you how to do a lap dance. And it's been wonderful.
It was an awesome lap dance too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it was
great.
great.
And you got a
Thank you.
dancing background, which also helps a ton.
Yeah,
What I
do.
love about all four of us is each of us had a profound change in our marriages with regards to intimacy that we can no longer keep to ourselves. That's why we're here. We've gone through extensive training ourselves, the same training that a therapist would go through to gain the skills and understand the theories and models that are popular out there that really help couples, research-based models that really, truly help couples improve intimacy in their marriage. Let's talk briefly about the kind of couples we've been able to help either at our retreats or in our online program. Amy, tell me about a couple that comes to mind when you think about how the combination of coaching and instruction and the power of our stories and make an impact on people to improve intimacy.
I can think of lots of examples, but one recently that comes to mind is a couple just entering the empty nest phase, and they had always struggled in the area of intimacy, and they realized here they were at empty nest phase, and it was kind of a make or break it. Like, if they couldn't figure this out, it was like, are we really going to be miserable for the rest of this time now that all our children are gone? Or, how are we going to navigate this time when it's just the two of us? And so they had the desire for something better, but they really had no idea how to produce that change. And so we coached together, they learned, they came to a retreat. I know that they were terrified to come to this retreat. I know both of them were very hesitant, thinking that everyone else there would know everything that they didn't know and that everyone else was going to be thriving. And there were worries that they would feel like they were broken or just, ashamed. And the absolute opposite happened. They made very dear friends at the retreat. They found a space that was not only helpful in helping them see themselves more clearly and how they had contributed to this pattern of lack of intimacy, each person had, but also seeing the goodness that was available in intimacy. They made dear friends that they are planning vacations with now. And it absolutely altered the course of their marriage. Each of them, they continue to work on their marriage and on the principles and the teaching that we're showing them in relationship skills. And each of them were able to make their own shift individually and also together. And they felt like they had created an entirely new marriage And so they decided to commemorate that, and they designed a new wedding ring for her, and he surprised her and proposed again. And they talk about how they have a new us, and they have completely redone their marriage. The tension is gone, the pressure is gone. There's capacity to give and receive love, to share affection and be affectionate. The duty, the obligation, they're gone. And now intimacy, both emotional and physical, is something that brings them together. And they just really enjoy and appreciate that. So I really have seen this work in many couples, but that's one that comes to mind recently.
I
That's
think the
great.
great thing about it is that every couple comes at it at a different place, right? And you don't have to be at a place where your marriage is falling apart and it's on the edge, although we help those people too, or we don't have to be where you feel like you've gotten somewhere and are thriving. I think we've seen this span the spectrum on that. I really like this last retreat, a couple that had been struggling for years and years and years. And they were on the brink of not like, we don't know what to do next. And as simple as it sounds, the next step for them was I just needed the husband to calm the heck down, right? He was so uptight and wound up in what was going on that he couldn't communicate clearly with his wife what his true emotions and why he felt the way he did. And we just worked on that one little thing. And by the time we left with hugs and high fives, it was, wow, we've really, in these last couple of days, been able to sit down and listen to one another for the first time in our whole entire marriage and really understand where we were at emotionally with each other. And that's what we have the long-term stories that Amy is giving where it's been months of coaching and everything, and we see that final impact. But I love about it too is that in 2 days, I saw something completely change in a marriage and a marriage that I felt was probably on its last leg have a turn for the better.
Mhm.
I mean, it can really be that impactful in that short of time.
It can. And even I'm thinking just real quick of another couple that we at this current retreat that we sat in a coaching together. And because of all of the assignments and teachings and skills that had happened over 2 days, we were coaching at the very last day. They were both able to see ways that they were blocking each other, that they were trying to control. And both of them were in tears and, saying, I'm sorry, and having like shifts and able to have new insight and understanding and able to move closer to each other where there had been walls and so much guarding. And so you see these shifts happen even in the shortness of a retreat, but also in this program over time as whether you're in the women's coaching or the men's coaching or the open coaching for couples, you see these shifts happen, and that opens up such amazing new opportunities in a relationship.
How about you, Tammy? What do you want to add to this?
But the thing that I am learning and seeing in so many couples from this retreat or from coaching that I'm doing is learning how to communicate. I think that it's interesting that when I do an assessment of a couple, most of them rank their communication very high. They think that they're great at communicating. They would never think that that is the problem. But we find with a lot of these retreat attendees, with myself and my husband, and a lot of the couples that I coach, that communication is a piece that we teach them, that we really help them learn and they go away with. I think that is one of my biggest takeaways from all of my coaching and from these retreats is learning how to communicate. We think we do well at, but having a coach step in and help us with wording that we just don't know before because it's not learned. To me, that's been transformative. And that's been some of the biggest takeaways that I have seen with the clients that I coach and from this retreat. Those were their takeaways. Like, thank you for helping us learn how to communicate. Thank you for being able to own our own voice, our own thoughts and feelings, and be able to communicate it in a way that is so much more mature. And I love that. I love watching that. That is when you see the shift is when they learn how to communicate, because then there's more honesty in a relationship. And
That's really good.
The one thing that I really, as we talk, all three of us talk, that makes me really excited, I think that is different than any place that you could ever go, is we come with our collective perspectives, all four of us as we coach, but we do it real time. whether it's on, during the program and we're doing these sessions, we talk about what we're seeing, the trends we're seeing in the sessions and things we need to talk about. But literally at the retreat this year, real time, we talked about, hey, we are getting to know these couples really well, and we see where they're struggling. And some of the stuff we have planned for the end of this thing is not going to help them. We need to backtrack, or we need to come and take the time to go back over these topics. So it's not, again, I don't know anywhere else you can sit down and have a time where it's catered to what's going on in your marriage at the time, because it's not just you're going to sit up there and listen to someone download information to you. You're going to get the information. We're going to follow up and see where you're at with coaching and with questions. And then we're going to continue to go on with the things that can help you do better. And so if you have spent any amount of time researching this and trying to understand how to become a better in a relationship, understanding the methods of differentiation and what it means to be intimate, and have found yourself any ways like frustrated that, hey, I have all this information and these concepts in my head, but it doesn't seem like I have a way to implement them and make it work. Like, this is the program for you, because I feel like we take all the information that's out there where you can get all these podcasts, and we find ways to help you intimately implement it into your lives and do it right there at the retreat or during the program. And so just as I'm listening to us talk about these couples and stuff, it just gets me excited to think, like, I don't know anywhere else in the world that will allow you to have that experience of, you're not just going to get information from experts. You're going to get true help and understand how to implement that information into your marriage and into your lives.
One of my favorite aspects of this work is whether I'm online over Zoom working with couples in the Next Level program, which is our online version of this, or our retreat program essentially, or at a retreat in person. It's just, as I get to know them and their stories, I can kind of see the picture of the pattern in their relationship and where they're stuck. And it's usually thought errors, or it's usually beliefs that are misguided. Sometimes it's pride and selfishness also involved too. But being able to point out, like, hey, do you see this pattern going on here? And once they see it, then they can fix it. That's something, I think, the magic of what we do, the four of us, we help people see, like, we're essentially holding up a mirror or pointing out things. It's like, where's Waldo? Oh, I didn't know it was there. Now I see it. Now I can't unsee it. Thank you. Now I know what to do about it. And then we give you specific tools and practices that will help you forge new patterns, new habits that will strengthen the dynamic in your relationship that's more conducive and supportive of an intimate relationship.
One of the biggest takeaways I took away when I was an attendee of the retreat is how to take these practices home, and not just for Jake and I, but how it now affected our family. I remember one of the, we had a funny experience that we walked in the door, we got home from the retreat and we sat on the couch, and the kids wanted to know, like, what was this? What's this retreat you went to? Like, explain it. Because at this point it was still hush hush in our home, right? These things were not talked about. But one of the most beautiful things, I would say, is the experience that I sat down and I said, guess what, guys? We're going to be talking about sex a lot more in our home. And it was just awesome to watch them, because, one of them freaked out a little bit because we hadn't talked about it enough. And that was actually our oldest. So it kind of made me step back and be like, okay, this is important, right? Being able to be like, this is such important work for our family. And just teaching these same concepts that we learned in the retreat, we have implemented not just with Jake and I, but also our family. And what a difference that has made for all of us. We're learning how to show emotions better. We're learning how to communicate better. We're learning how to own who we are. And it's awesome. So that is like one of my favorite things that we've taken home as a family. We talk about sex more, and we are just taking all these aspects into our entire life in our home. So I am so grateful for that I learned from the retreat and the program.
It's good. Greg,
are your kids grateful for that?
Do you know what they are? Because now they have a safe place to talk about it, right? And I'm more calm about it. They know that they can come to mom. Mom knows a lot about sex now and communicating and relationships. And man, it's great. It has just been a blessing for sure.
Absolutely.
Greg, how much of the content that we teach is actually about sex?
To me, sex is an indicator of how everything is going, right? It's the canary in the coal mine. So if your sex is dead, then most likely all the other stuff's in your relationship's not working too. And so we talk a lot about relationship things beyond sex and doing that. But it's nowhere else have I ever been where, and it's not in a bad way or a dirty way, have we been so open about sexuality and what it means. And what it does is it takes that group of people that have been probably afraid their whole life to even talk about sex with each other. And now they're talking about these things in a group. And we know that it's private and it's, we don't share those things outside that group, but it makes those people so close. And we had this last retreat, we broke, and we did it before. We break up into 2 different sessions with the women and the men, right? We found it very helpful because there's some things that you just don't want to talk about. There's maybe some questions you're afraid of offend your spouse at the time, and you want to have an answer to, or maybe we don't want to talk about that in front of the women. And I was shocked this year of how many in-depth questions and real soul searching things we talked about. We talked about sex a little bit in that one, but we went to raising our kids, and we went to suicide, and we went to addictions, and we went to, you think of every vulnerable topic you can think of, I think we covered in that hour. And
2
here were
hours.
20 men, or was it 2 hours? It was so
It
fast.
was 2 hours.
2 hours. And here were 20 men who were like, hey, brother, I have your back, right? I've had that experience too. And this is some of the things I dealt with it, or we found some help here. And it was like the most comforting session amongst those 20 men that we'd met a day before, but we felt like we'd been friends forever. And so, yeah, we do talk about sex a lot, which I don't mind. I enjoy doing that. But there's a lot of other stuff that gets covered in those sessions too.
Can I speak to the women's and men's sessions too, Dan?
Yeah, go.
So on the opposite side, Greg and Dan were with the men in this retreat, and Tammy and I were with the women, and we did have a 2-hour session where they were allowed to ask or talk or share. And what you realize is that all of us are on this journey. And on that journey, it can feel so lonely and isolating because we don't talk about the journey. And to be in a safe space where you can talk about all the different fears you have, or concerns, or worries, or rejections, or anxieties, and to have the support of all of these fellow women, to have their input, to have Tammy and I as coaches to help guide that. It was really healing. And I think a lot of times we talk about wounds and trauma and hurts that we have, and they are inevitably a part of marriage and relationships, to be sure. But there's also so much power to heal and to move forward. And I think the coaching that happens in Next Level is very healing. I think at the retreat, there was a lot of healing that happened in many different ways. There was understanding that opened, there were apologies, there was forgiveness, there was room to expand in understanding yourself and your spouse. Like, so much healing happens too. And beyond that healing, it opens up your power to create the type of relationship you want, or to be more of the type of person that you want to be. And it's very, very real. So I think that's also a powerful part of these programs, that we're all on a journey, and you don't have to do that journey alone. There's support and help and healing.
I think one thing, and maybe Tammy, you can talk about this a little bit, that was really impactful for me that Tammy brought up during the sessions is she was really able to go back to her own experience just a year ago, and she was able to watch the room as we did some of these activities. And one specific activity we asked to talk about, to write a bunch of stuff down on a piece of paper, the feelings you were feeling as we asked you this question. Tammy, tell us about your experience a year ago and what you were able to tell those people in that room as you watched some of the people have the same experience as you did a year ago, but you were able to confirm that, hey, I had the same experience, but this is how it impacted me.
Yeah. So during this part, it's often very emotional. This assignment is very impactful. But I remember doing it the first time, and I sat there in front of this paper with a pen, and Dan said, "Don't lift up your pen." And I never lifted up my pen, but I had nothing to write. And that really, really impacted me in a way that made me realize that I had work to do. but it was also okay. I also gave myself compassion to know that that was okay. And I wanted to move forward and I wanted to fix that. So this time, being there as a coach, I was observing and I was watching these people have these same looks on their faces. I could see the anxiety. I could see the frustration. I could see the tears rolling down their paper as they did this activity. And I could not help myself but share afterwards and letting them know that it's okay. Have compassion for yourself for where you're at and know that this is a step forward of growth. And whether there's one word, whether there's two words, or there's none, it's okay because this is growth. And it was just very impactful for me to be able to share that and just being able to see how far I have come in a very short amount of time to be able to now put my pen to paper and write for that whole time without being able to stop, and words that really mean something to me and just really show where my sexuality has come. And it's beautiful and everyone can get there if they choose.
This particular activity is also on the online course program of the Get Your Marriage On program. And there was a couple who at the retreat doing this, it's like a 10-minute journaling exercise. So she found a quiet place. I think she sat on the stairs or went upstairs or something to journal and came back with a page full. And her husband looked at her and like, really? That's incredible. Now, you're not allowed to like go reading unless they share. That's not, you write it for yourself, not for your spouse to read. But
Dan, I was sitting in the back of the room when
Yeah,
that
yeah.
happened next to the husband, and
Yes.
watching his face was incredible. And he actually brought it up in the men's session. He's like, I thought my wife would come back and have nothing on that page because that's what they've been struggling with, right? She
Right.
didn't really know what her sexuality was or what she wanted or desired. He's like, and when I watched her walk away, I thought, oh man, I'm in trouble, right? He talked about this. It's like, this is going to be bad. But to have her come back in the room and not only have a page full, but I think she also responded and shared some of the stuff that she had on that page was actually absolutely incredible. I saw that turning part too, and that couple was amazing.
They've since emailed me, and she said on their drive home from the retreat, they had like a 5-hour drive ahead of them. And they had probably the most vulnerable, meaningful conversation about the intimate aspects of their marriage. And they've been married 20 years to that point. And just like they could just see the scales fall off their eyes, and their misconceptions about each other were corrected, as there was a lot of confusion about love languages in their marriage, and they'd do a lot of self-editing and not bring their whole selves to each other because out of fear of like bothering or annoying or offending the other. They're able to really clear the air on that. And when you clear the air, it's like taking the weeds out of the garden. Now they have all this beautiful land to plant beautiful things that they want to grow in their relationship.
I was just going to add that then she also showed up to the coaching and also talked about how impactful that was. And she wasn't the only one that had those beautiful long conversations on the way home. There were 3 or 4 other couples that shared that as well. And so it's super powerful to be able to open up these conversations, to be able to open up understanding, to be able to open up room to really develop out of that gridlock.
So I want to talk about what's frustrating about this process, because some people come to the retreat or sign up for the program like, I'm here to fix my spouse. We're going to sit in the room and I'm going to be right. And they're going to realize that they've been wrong because the speaker is going to tell them that, I've been right the whole time and they better listen up and pay attention. Yet the way we structure things and teach things is there's so much importance on personal responsibility. I remember one man raising his hand like, wait, I really want my wife to XYZ. You mean you're telling me I'm not supposed to do that? We were talking about his pattern, right? Of pressuring and cajoling. And it's like, well, if I stop doing that, then that means we'll never go anywhere. But we're able to help people. And I think that's a really frustrating concept, but it's like a mind-blowing concept. Wait, I'm not responsible for my spouse's emotions? Any of you want to elaborate on that a little bit more? Because I think that's a point.
First, hopefully it does, they got there. So if anyone you're listening and think you need to go to a retreat or sign up just to fix your spouse and it gets you there, then go ahead and do that. We don't want to do it. But
you need to start somewhere.
You need to start somewhere, but definitely, it's a frustrating part.
I think it's always easier to blame your spouse or to think that they're the one that's broken, and it is hard to become aware of your part and how you might be contributing, and that process of self-confronting and awareness isn't always fun. It can kind of hurt. It can be disappointing. It can be discouraging. And also at the same time, it can be helpful because you're the only one that you really have power to change. And so when you do see your part in a pattern, that also opens up your part that you are able to change. And instead of saying, I want my spouse to do this because I want it, or my spouse should do this because, it's what would make me happy, you start to take back your responsibility. And that process isn't always fun because it's easier to try to manipulate, manage, control,
Blame.
force, blame, all of the things that we do with Stonewall, like all of those, to try to get your spouse to do or be something. And it just, it's freeing and also terrifying to be able to say, oh my gosh, like I'm the problem. It's me.
Yeah, it's me. It was the turning point of our marriage for sure, right? When I finally was like, Amy, what's hard about being married to me? And probably could have asked the question 2 or 3 or 4 years before that, but wasn't ready for the answer. And actually, Amy wasn't ready to tell the truth either. So
True.
And we had to both be in that place. But when she told the truth, it was not the funnest day of my life. It was very frustrating. We're talking about frustrating, but if I look back on when our marriage started turning, that was the moment it really started making the corner, and we stopped beating our heads against the wall. It started getting through that wall. So very important.
I would say one of the things that, maybe not frustrating, but you're going to go through, there's a whole bunch of range of emotions that you have to process through. It's this retreat. For a minute, you're frustrated. A minute, you're overwhelmed. A minute, you're so joyful and you're happy and you're excited. Like maybe it seems frustrating in the moment. You are just downloading so much awesome information and your emotions in your body are trying to process through all of it. So it could feel frustrating in that sense, but it is beautiful too, because you are just feeling all the fill and seeing what is your portion and maybe what is not, and just really stepping in a way where it may feel frustrating, but it's a frustrating that comes to a reward.
Love that. So it's not all heavy. Come on, we're talking about sex and marriage, which is fun, right? It's supposed to be fun.
Right.
Yeah.
So we keep it lighthearted too. So there's this fun balance. So we do these fun excursions. Tell us about some of these excursions that we do.
The interesting part about this, we were supposed to go on the excursion the year before, and I wasn't feeling well, so we didn't go. So Tammy and Jake had gone, and so they decided to do the same excursion. I'm never going to put my backside over a canyon wall with a rope, so I'm not going canyoneering. I'm sorry, my big butt's not going down that canyon. But jumping into a razor side by side, that sounded interesting to me, and so we went with Tammy and Jake again to do this excursion with about, I'd say 10 other couples. No, we had 8 vehicles now. I remember,
8,
so
so
maybe 8
16
other couples.
people.
But some of it, 2 of them. But anyway, a lot of the couples went here because a lot of them also wouldn't put their backside down the canyon with the rope.
But those who did love that, by the way.
They did love that. And if that's your thing, then I don't judge you.
Hey, that's my thing.
Yeah, you go put your backside down a canyon with a rope. That's fine. But for me, getting behind the wheel of that razor and going rock climbing or off-roading and down the sand was the funnest thing I've done in a very long time. And I think Amy says that I didn't stop grinning.
Yeah,
and
didn't.
my cheeks hurt when it was done.
Yes, they were all bright red from the dirt and the dust because the goggles blocked the rest.
My white beard was red from the red dirt, but it was a blast. But not only that, it was a great time we watched couples change during that, I think, too, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the couples I'd watched had a lot of frustration during this thing. We watched them be able to laugh with each other and to enjoy the time with each other. So we put them in a situation they weren't normally there and normal being with, and allowed them to also open up in different ways. So we have pictures of pointing straight down on a rock like this in a razor, and it was a blast. If you do, that's worth the money that Dan's going to charge right there. So come do that if nothing else. I had a great time, and I can't wait till the next one we get to go out. And I'm definitely not going down the canyon again. I'm definitely going into the razor.
I think it took us right to the edge of, we talk about Eros energy and being alive. And so Greg was the driver and he likes to go right to the very edge. And so I think I felt the edge of where my existence was. I felt that aliveness, that Eros energy as we're hanging upside down or forwards or zooming or flipping. And yeah, it was definitely worth every moment.
Let's just make it clear. I didn't literally flip you guys.
You didn't literally
Flipping.
flip. We
No.
got close, but we never
Just-
flipped.
We need to clear that up for the listeners right now. This is going to be forever on, the web. So we gotta clear that up.
For the canyoneering, we find this beautiful canyon to go down, and this particular couple came. I think this is their first time ever to the Southwest. Their first time seeing red rock and canyons in this kind of a landscape because they're from the Midwest. And so we're going down this 120-foot wall cliff. And my favorite photo that I took at the entire time at the retreat was this photo of this woman. You can see the absolute mix of terror and courage in her face as she's about to step over the ledge of a 120-foot cliff, right? And she went down the cliff. She was super focused, and it was such an emotional experience for her. When she unhooked at the bottom, she's like, I need to go. And she walked a few paces, sat down, and just cried for a little bit just to kind of get it out. But I think that is so representative of what we do in our programs. This is giving couples the tools, the safety, the harness, the equipment, the training. And we say, okay, now it's your turn to do this. And it might feel really scary to do it. It might be a lot of focus and really intense. It might be very emotional. But when you finish, you have this amazing, exhilarating feeling like, I did that. I did that. I am so alive. I have changed. I am a different person now because of what I have gone through.
And that just, almost sums up the whole thing, right? And this is what we love. We see real change. This is not small change. It's monumentous change. It's real change. We have examples sitting right here on this podcast of change that has happened in marriages that have lasted years, and change that happened fast within a year, that you gone from, not talking anything to doing lap dancing. It's the change, and how exciting and wonderful that is to see that. I would say this is the best money you'll ever spend. I don't think of any other way you could spend money that would improve your life more. And Amy and I have come to find out when we improve our marriage too, it allows us to be on stride with everything else in our life, and that includes our finances. And when we're on the same page with our finances,
and
our parenting, it also just blesses us with everything, right? It blesses us with abundance. Like the ROI that we've gotten on doing this, that return on that investment, I can't even count it, right? But it's all the things I can't count, but it's literally, I think, also the financial abundance we've found and things like that have come because of what we've been able to do in our marriage. And I can't think of any better way to spend some money to be together for a period of time, or to join the program that we do online. You will get a return, I promise.
I love the study from Harvard. It's the longest running study ever. For 75 years, they've followed people to find out what created the most happiness in life, the best quality of life. And they found that it was the marriage relationship. When you invest in your marriage, you invest in happiness over every aspect of your life. Everything gets better, sweeter, more alive, more abundant. And I think investing in your marriage is literally the best investment you can ever make.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that image of our friend from the retreat, and put yourself there. Picture yourself in that harness, even Greg, and like picture yourself there, and that's your marriage. And ask yourself if you're ready to take that next leap. It's scary. It's a long drop down, and it seems like, oh, are we ready for this? Can we invest in this? Is it work? It's fit for us? But it is. Like, it is a scary step, and you feel like you're gonna just drop your butt down the canyon. And sometimes it feels like that. And that's okay. Like, the money that is invested in a relationship, you chose each other first. So choose each other again in investing in this and having it be a priority in your life. And picture yourself there and take that step backward. You won't regret it.
Leap. Right.
This has been a lot of fun. What
Yeah.
great insights you've all shared. Thank you.
We can't wait to become great friends with all of you.
I know. We're
Come-
excited to
come be
meet
part of
you.
our family.
Yeah.
Come
Um,
on in. We have
We're excited
room.
to meet all of you. There's plenty of room within the program and within the retreats. We're completely excited.
Yep.
Yep.
We want to see you on the inside.
That's
yeah,
right.
come join the family.
Yep.
In the room where it happens.
In the room where it happens.
Great. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in accelerating growth in your marriage, either sexually, emotionally, or spiritually, I want to invite you to work with me in my affordable coaching program called Next Level. More information about Next Level and my fun and sexy apps for couples are available at getyourmarriageon.com. Please also don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And be sure to